Have you ever been told that the secret to success is simply discipline? That if you just force yourself to do the work every day, nothing will stop you? Well, what if I told you that everything you've been told about discipline might be missing its most crucial piece, and that piece could mean the difference between burnout and breakthrough? Today, we dive into the world of Brendon Burchard, one of the most respected voices in high performance. He says this: discipline alone is useless if you don't anchor it in something deeper. It's like having a high-performance car, but no fuel in the tank. It looks great, it's ready to go, but nothing happens. In this video, you'll discover what that missing element really is. We'll explore how discipline without this fails and how you can flip that around so your efforts sustain you, not drain you. We'll dig into lesser-known facts about Brendon's approach, the inner wiring of motivation, how he connects discipline to identity, and why most people who stay disciplined still feel stuck. By the end, you'll have a clear path to elevate your habits beyond rote effort and step into meaningful progress. If you stay with me till the end, you'll walk away with 3 powerful insights. What drives discipline beyond just showing up? The real connection between your purpose and your schedule. 3, one change you can make today that shifts your discipline from exhausting to energizing. So if you're ready to move from forced routine to empowered momentum, welcome. You're watching Habits of Greatness, and if you're new here, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss powerful shifts like these. Let's get started. Before we talk about the missing piece that makes discipline powerful, let's slow down and understand what discipline really is. Everyone talks about it like it's the ultimate key to success. Just be more disciplined and you'll win. But what does that actually mean? When Brendon Burchard speaks about discipline, he doesn't describe it as punishment or restriction. He calls it a rhythm, a structure, a pattern of showing up, even when your emotions fluctuate. Discipline, in this sense, is not about being hard on yourself. It's about consistency. It's about doing the things you said you would do, not just once, not when it's easy, but over and over again until it becomes part of who you are. It's the quiet power behind every great achievement. It's that moment when your feelings tell you to quit, but your commitment says keep going. Before we go deeper, imagine this. 2 people start the same journey. Both are excited. Both are motivated, but after a few weeks, one fades away. The other keeps showing up, tired, busy, distracted, yet still there. What separates them isn't talent, it's discipline, that invisible force that turns intention into reality. Now, when most people think of discipline, they think of willpower, pushing through, forcing yourself to do what needs to be done. And yes, willpower plays a role, but discipline is more than a burst of strength. It's structure. It's design. It's a plan for how you'll behave when your motivation disappears. Brendon often says discipline is built on systems, routines that protect your progress when life gets messy. It's not about doing everything perfectly. It's about making sure there's always a next step, a time you've blocked on your calendar, a cue that reminds you to act, a trigger that keeps your focus anchored when distractions pull you away. Consistency is another core part of discipline. Think of it as the heartbeat of growth. Anyone can be disciplined for a day, but true consistency, that steady commitment, is where transformation happens. It's waking up every morning and saying, I'll do something that moves me closer, even if it's small. Discipline thrives when you repeat the right actions until they become automatic. But here's where it gets tricky. Most people confuse discipline with intensity. They think being disciplined means going all in, grinding harder, staying up later, working longer. They wear exhaustion like a badge of honor. But that's not real discipline. That's self-punishment disguised as productivity. True discipline is about balance, about energy management, not energy depletion. It's the ability to sustain, not just survive. The common belief that more discipline equals more success sounds right, but it's incomplete. Think about how many people you've seen who are disciplined in the wrong direction. They stick to routines that don't inspire them. They commit to goals that don't fulfill them. They stay busy, but not effective. Discipline without awareness becomes a trap. You're working hard, but you're not moving forward. That's what Brendon warns against. He explains that discipline alone doesn't guarantee progress. You can be incredibly disciplined at things that don't matter. You can wake up early, follow every checklist, and still feel lost or frustrated. Why? Because discipline without clarity leads to motion without meaning. You become consistent at surviving instead of growing. To understand discipline fully, we have to see it as a system of three elements: consistency, willpower, and routine. Consistency keeps you grounded. It's what holds you when excitement fades. It's the rhythm that makes success predictable. Willpower is the spark, the decision to act even when it's inconvenient. It's that moment you choose progress over comfort. Routine is the structure, the external framework that makes discipline easier. It's your morning rituals, your time blocks, your environment. It's what turns the internal want to into external did it together. These three create the architecture of discipline. Remove one, and the structure collapses. If you rely only on willpower, you'll burn out. If you rely only on routines, you'll lose flexibility. If you rely only on consistency without awareness, you'll keep repeating unhelpful patterns. The magic happens when all three work together. Brendon often talks about discipline as a form of self-trust. When you keep promises to yourself, you strengthen confidence. Every time you say, "I'll do it," and you actually do, your identity shifts. You stop seeing yourself as someone who tries and start seeing yourself as someone who follows through. That's where true power begins. But there's another side. Most people ignore the emotional side of discipline. It's not just mental toughness. It's emotional awareness, because there will be days when your energy dips, when your focus fades, when life gets heavy. Discipline in those moments isn't about forcing yourself. It's about reminding yourself of who you are and why you started. It's about compassion and correction, not shame and punishment. People often think discipline means living without freedom. In reality, discipline creates freedom. When you are disciplined with your time, your health, your focus, you free yourself from chaos. You reclaim your days from distractions. You earn the right to direct your own life. The undisciplined are controlled by impulses. The disciplined control their destiny. Still, society glorifies the wrong image. The overworked achiever, the no-sleep grinder. That image sells, but it's false. The truth is, the world's highest performers aren't just more disciplined. They're smarter with their discipline. They know when to push and when to pause. They know discipline isn't about restriction. It's about alignment, making sure your habits match your purpose. And that's the deeper layer most people miss. Discipline without direction is just movement. It's doing for the sake of doing. But discipline aligned with meaning, that's transformation. When you know your purpose, discipline feels less like effort and more like expression. It becomes natural, even joyful. So, before we go any further, hold this new understanding close. Discipline is not a punishment you give yourself to succeed. It's a structure you design to protect your purpose. It's the invisible framework behind every dream that ever became real. It's not about grinding harder. It's about grounding deeper. It's not about controlling everything. It's about committing to what matters. And once you see discipline this way, you'll never confuse it with willpower again. Because true discipline isn't just about what you do. It's about who you become when you keep showing up, no matter how you feel. That's the kind of discipline Brendon Burchard talks about. The kind that doesn't drain your energy, but directs it. The kind that doesn't trap you in routines, but frees you through purpose. The kind that doesn't demand perfection, but rewards persistence. And now that we've defined it, we can finally uncover why even this kind of discipline can fail, and what missing element turns it from mere effort into unstoppable momentum. So why do so many people work hard, stay consistent, and still feel stuck? Why do they wake up early, push through routines, and yet end the day exhausted, unfulfilled, and wondering, why am I not further ahead? The answer lies in a truth that Brendon Burchard repeats over and over again. Discipline without the right foundation doesn't last. Most people think if they can just push harder, grind longer, and stay disciplined, things will eventually fall into place. But that's not how it works. You can force yourself to show up for a while, but if you don't have something deeper driving you, the fire fades. Your brain and body can only take so much of must do before they crave a reason to care. Discipline alone is mechanical. It's like running a car without oil. The engine keeps moving, but the friction eventually burns it out. The problem isn't lack of effort. It's lack of meaning behind the effort. Brendon often explains that discipline, when disconnected from purpose, becomes hollow repetition. You might look productive from the outside, but inside you feel empty. And that's where so many ambitious people get trapped. They confuse motion with progress. They think activity equals achievement. They show up at work, hit their checklists, stick to their plans, but there's no spark, no emotional connection. Over time, that kind of discipline drains your energy instead of building it. You start to resent the very habits you once admired. This is why Brendon says true discipline isn't about control, it's about connection. Connection to your purpose, your identity, your energy, and your environment. Without those, discipline collapses under its own weight. When you look at people who sustain success, those who show up year after year with enthusiasm and energy, they're not just disciplined, they're deeply aligned. Their discipline is anchored in something that matters to them. They don't rely on sheer willpower. They rely on clarity, meaning, and community. That's the missing piece. That's the this in Brendon's message: purpose, identity, social connection, and environment. These are the deeper forces that make discipline last. Let's start with the first purpose. Purpose is the emotional engine of discipline. It's the why behind the what. Without purpose, discipline feels like pressure. With purpose, discipline feels like passion. It's the difference between forcing yourself to do something and feeling called to do it. Think about two people working out at the gym. The first says, I have to go because I don't want to gain weight. The second says, I go because I want to be strong enough to play with my kids, to live longer, to show up for the people I love. Same action, completely different energy. The first person pushes from guilt. The second moves from meaning. The first relies on discipline. The second is powered by purpose. When you have a strong why, you don't have to force discipline. It becomes a natural response to what you value. That's why Brendon always reminds people to reconnect with their deeper intentions. Ask yourself, what does this effort serve? What outcome truly matters to me? Because once you attach emotion to effort, discipline becomes sustainable. Now let's talk about identity. You can't stay disciplined if your identity doesn't support it. If you see yourself as inconsistent, lazy, or distracted, you'll sabotage your own efforts. But when you begin to believe, I'm someone who shows up, I'm someone who follows through, your behavior starts matching that belief. Identity acts as the silent driver behind your habits. Brendon says, don't just focus on what you need to do, focus on who you need to be, because who you believe you are determines what you're willing to tolerate, how you handle challenges, and how consistent you'll be when motivation fades. When discipline is rooted in identity, it feels natural. You're not pretending to be disciplined, you are disciplined. It's who you are. But to maintain that identity, you need energy. You can't act like your best self when you're running on empty. That's why Brendon emphasizes energy regulation as part of sustained discipline. Your mood, your rest, your nutrition, your movement, all of it affects your ability to stay consistent. Think about it. When you're exhausted, your patience fades, your focus shrinks, and your willpower disappears. Most people think they have a discipline problem, but what they really have is an energy problem. They're trying to use self-control in a body and mind that are already drained. Brendon's approach is simple. Protect your energy like your life depends on it, because it does. Schedule breaks, move your body, sleep enough, nourish your mind with positive inputs. Energy isn't just a personal comfort, it's a professional responsibility. Without it, discipline dies. And this ties directly into the next layer, environment. Your surroundings either pull you forward or pull you apart. If your environment is filled with distractions, negativity, and unstructured chaos, no amount of discipline will save you. You'll constantly be fighting friction. But when you shape your environment, your workspace, your people, your routines, you create a system that supports discipline naturally. Brendon often reminds his audience, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. That means if you want to stay disciplined, don't just change your mindset, change your environment. Create reminders, remove temptations, surround yourself with people who expect excellence from you. That's where social connection comes in. Discipline isn't meant to be a solo sport. When you're surrounded by others who are growing, striving, and holding themselves to high standards, your discipline strengthens through association. Accountability amplifies commitment. You've probably noticed this in your own life. When you join a community, whether it's a fitness group, a mastermind, or a supportive team, your consistency rises almost effortlessly. You don't want to let others down. You feel inspired by their progress. You start mirroring the energy of the group. That's human psychology at work. So when Brendon says discipline doesn't last without the right foundation, he's not being poetic, he's being practical. He's pointing to a formula that explains why most people burn out. They try to live disciplined lives, disconnected from purpose, identity, energy, and environment. They wake up early but don't know why. They follow routines but forget who they're becoming. They force focus but never recharge. They work hard alone while the most successful build teams and tribes around their mission. Discipline in isolation can only take you so far, but discipline fueled by purpose, aligned with identity, supported by energy, and surrounded by the right environment, that kind of discipline doesn't just last, it compounds. It becomes the foundation of greatness. That's the difference between being busy and being fulfilled, between grinding endlessly and growing intentionally, between living a life of pressure and living a life of power. And that's exactly where Brendon Burchard's message leads. Not to harder discipline, but to smarter, deeper, more sustainable discipline, the kind that transforms your actions into a legacy. Let's talk about the power of your environment and why it can make or break your discipline. You can have all the motivation in the world, all the best intentions, but if you live or work in a space that constantly pulls you off track, your willpower won't survive for long. Brendon Burchard says it clearly, your environment shapes your behavior far more than your desire does. Look closely at your surroundings, the people you talk to, the energy in your home, the setup of your workspace. All of it either feeds your discipline or drains it. You can't expect to stay consistent in a place designed for distraction. You can't grow in an environment that doesn't support growth. That's why the world's most effective performers are intentional about what surrounds them. They don't just design goals, they design ecosystems that make those goals easier to reach. Think about it. If your workspace is cluttered, your mind becomes cluttered. If your friends don't support your ambitions, you start shrinking to fit in. If your schedule is chaotic, your focus dissolves. That's not a discipline problem, that's an environment problem. Brendon often shares that consistent discipline comes from connection and accountability. It's not just about isolating yourself to grind harder. In fact, isolation kills discipline. When you're alone too long, your energy fades, your purpose feels distant, and self-doubt grows louder. But when you have people around you who expect greatness, who check in, who push and encourage, discipline becomes easier, almost automatic. That's the magic of social connection. Humans are wired for belonging. We rise when we are seen. When you surround yourself with others who share your drive, you start absorbing their standards. You don't just hold yourself accountable, your environment does it for you. Brendon reminds us that accountability doesn't mean pressure, it means partnership. It's the teammate who checks your progress, the friend who asks if you're keeping promises to yourself, the mentor who won't let you drift from your purpose. Those relationships keep your focus sharp. They remind you of who you are when your motivation fades. So ask yourself, who do I have around me? Do the people closest to me challenge me to stay consistent, or do they constantly tempt me to take the easy route? Do my surroundings make it harder or easier to live in alignment with my goals? Because your answer to that question will tell you why your discipline either thrives or fades. You can design your environment to support your best self. Start small, clean your workspace, remove distractions from your phone, organize your mornings so your tools, notes, and routines are easy to access, create visual reminders of your goals, a whiteboard, a daily checklist, or even a single phrase written where you can see it. The goal is not perfection. The goal is alignment. And then build connection into your environment. Join a mastermind, a fitness group, a writing community, or any circle where people are consistent and growth-minded. These environments raise your standards without you realizing it. Brendon says if you want to change your life, change your peer group, because energy is contagious. So is discipline. Once your environment and relationships start supporting your growth, the next layer is structure and routine. This is where Brendon's principle of master your schedule comes in. He often says, you can't have freedom without structure. Discipline thrives in clarity, and structure gives clarity a home. Without a schedule, your priorities fight for space. You drift, react, and lose focus. But with structure, you take control of your time instead of being controlled by it. Structure doesn't mean rigidity. It's about rhythm. It's about creating flow in your day, space for creation, space for rest, and space for review. Discipline doesn't mean doing everything. It means doing what matters consistently. Brendon teaches 3 levels of structure: monthly review, weekly review, and daily intentions. Each level helps you zoom in and out, ensuring your discipline stays aligned with your bigger purpose. Start with your monthly review. Once a month, step back and ask what's working, what's draining me, what habits are serving my goals, and what needs to change. This reflection resets your focus and prevents you from drifting for months in the wrong direction. Next comes your weekly review. This is where you reconnect with your goals. Brendon calls it the Power Week. Every Sunday or Monday, look at your upcoming week, plan your priorities, set your top 3 outcomes, block time for what matters most. When you enter the week with intention, discipline feels lighter because you already know what deserves your energy. Then every morning, set your daily intentions. Don't just dive into work. Pause. Ask, who do I want to be today? What energy do I want to bring? What's my one non-negotiable task? This daily check-in builds emotional and mental readiness. It turns your schedule from a list of chores into a reflection of your values. Just structure, not confinement, but guidance. It's your roadmap through chaos. Now imagine bringing all these components together: purpose, identity, environment, and structure. When they align, discipline stops feeling heavy. It stops being a fight. It becomes an expression of who you are. Picture this. You wake up with a clear why. You know what your discipline serves? You see yourself as someone who follows through. That's identity. Your workspace is clean, inspiring, and free from distractions. That's environment. You've planned your day, your week, and your month. That's structure. You've got a friend who checks in, a team that believes in you, and a community that holds you accountable. That's connection. Now, discipline isn't grim, it's natural. You don't have to force yourself. You want to show up. You want to stay consistent because everything around you is designed to help you succeed. That's the difference between fighting for discipline and flowing with it. But of course, there are pitfalls. Brendon warns against using discipline as punishment. Some people treat it like self-control through suffering. They equate discipline with deprivation. No rest, no joy, no flexibility. That mindset breaks you. Real discipline isn't punishment, it's empowerment. It's how you build trust with yourself. Another pitfall is relying solely on willpower. Willpower is finite. It fades with fatigue, stress, and distraction. If your discipline depends only on your mood or energy, it will collapse. That's why you need structure, community, and clarity to carry you when your motivation runs low. And one of the biggest traps is ignoring environment and connection. People think they can go it alone, but when you isolate, your growth slows. When you cut off accountability, excuses grow louder. You need people who remind you of your potential when you forget it. You need systems that make it hard to fail. To make this real, Brendon suggests a few simple steps you can start with today. First, write your why statement. Get clear on what your discipline serves. If your effort has meaning, it will have endurance. Second, choose one weekly review time to check your purpose and progress. It could be Sunday evening or Friday morning. Reflect, adjust, and realign before the next cycle begins. Third, identify one person or environment you'll lean on for accountability. Someone who inspires you, challenges you, or simply reminds you that you're not alone. These small steps might look simple, but they transform everything. They shift discipline from a burden into a rhythm. They build momentum that lasts not for a week, but for a lifetime. Because when your environment supports you, when your structure guides you, and when your connections uplift you, discipline doesn't drain your spirit, it amplifies it. And that's exactly the kind of disciplined life Brendon Burchard wants you to build. One that's not just productive, but deeply purposeful, connected, and alive. Discipline isn't useless, but it is useless without the right foundation. You can't build greatness on willpower alone. You need meaning behind your effort, an identity that supports it, an environment that fuels it, and connections that keep you accountable. When those pieces align, purpose, identity, structure, and connection, discipline becomes something greater. It stops being a struggle and turns into strength. So here's your moment to reflect. What's missing from your discipline right now? Is it your why, your energy, your surroundings, or maybe the people around you? Choose one of these today, just one, and commit to improving it. Because real transformation doesn't come from doing everything at once. It comes from one conscious step, taken with intention. Remember, growth isn't reserved for the few. It's available to you every single day when you connect your discipline to something that truly matters. If this video helped you see discipline in a new light, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel, Habits of Greatness, for more insights from Brendon Burchard and other thought leaders. Your next level starts right here, and it starts now.